We specialise in protecting, preserving and growing your wealth. Blacktower Financial Management, the team you want by your side. Visit blacktowerfm.com.
Back to Christina Brady from Blacktower Financial Management. Picking up today, first one in a while. We said we had more good news. Now, this is if people are within the Valencia region in Spain, right?
It is.
This is how these work, because the autonomous... This is delightful news. You can't wait to pass it on. Because the way things work, as we know in Spain, it's within each autonomous region, they can do their own thing on some things. And this is one of them.
Yeah. What you have in Spain is you have national tax. So that's the base, like income tax. And then regions can add their own on. And they can decide what they do with wealth tax, succession tax, which we know is inheritance tax. And what happened, as we know, we had a change in government in the Valencia region. We got rid of the socialists, and so part of their manifesto is that they were going to reduce taxes where they could. So on the 21st of July, the Valencia government made a very, very bold move, and it approved to suppress inheritance tax in the Valencia region. And they've backdated it to the 28th of May 23. So since then, there has been no inheritance tax to be payable from people to either their children or their spouses. So in Spain, under inheritance tax rules, you have four groups of people. Right, group one is children, grandchildren, adopted children under 21. They always got the most allowance. Group 2 is children and adopted children over 21, grandparents and spouses. Group 3 is brothers, sisters, aunts and uncles. And group 4 is non-related people, cousins, etc. So for groups 1 and 2, so that's for children, spouses, and obviously if you leave money to your parents, their inheritance tax now has been suppressed. And that makes a huge difference. Before in the Valencia region, spouse to spouse, you only got €100,000 allowance before you had to pay inheritance tax. And for most people, if their properties were worth 500,000 in joint names, obviously you were over that 100,000 threshold. And this doesn't just apply to beneficiaries who live in the EU. It applies to beneficiaries no matter where they are in the world. So it also applies to non-EU countries. So that's countries like the US, Canada, Australia, UK. So if you have assets and you live in the Valencia region, so you're a tax resident here, you die, and you leave your assets to anyone in group 1 or 2, no matter where they are in the world, they don't pay inheritance tax.
Wow. Okay. So no, not a limit on it. It's just there's none at all.
Yep. And it's a huge difference. We used to have it's basically a 99% discount. And then that went down to 75, then it went down to 50. And the old socialist government said they were going to get the allowance down even more to only 25% discount or zero. The other government has come in now and said, no, why can't people leave what they've worked so hard for to their children? Now, group 3, which is brothers, sisters, aunts and uncles, isn't included in this. However, it is expected that they will include this group within the next year or so. It could be sooner than that. Now, group 4, I'm afraid if you're not married, you fall into group 4. If you're not related to someone leaving the money, you fall into group 4. Or if you're a distant family relative, you fall into group 4. And therefore, you have to pay the full brunt of inheritance tax. As per the national rules, there's no discount and it's horrendous. So if you are not married, and you do actually want to leave your partner something and avoid inheritance tax, if it's going to, you need to consider possibly getting married. And if you have got money to leave and you don't want to pay inheritance tax, obviously leave it to children. If you then want it to go on to other family members, maybe you can put something in writing saying that they gift something to other family members. Remember, if they live in the UK and they've got money, they gift it to someone, they have to live for 7 years, otherwise that person will pay tax. So there are ways around it, but it's a huge move forward and a very, very bold move. And they also did say that they would look at wealth tax, because wealth tax, again, is it can amount to a lot of money each year, even if your assets aren't that big. Say you've got a house and it's increased in value, you're charged wealth tax. And some people are asset rich and cash poor, and it can have a huge effect on them. So they're looking at wealth tax as well. But for now, Valencia region has come in line with other regions like Madrid, Barcelona, Murcia, and the Balearics have done it as well. In the groups 1 and 2, inheritance tax has all but gone. Okay, so people that were getting elderly and were thinking of selling their house and they wanted to downsize but thought, oh no, because of the inheritance implications, and were going into rented accommodation, you can sell your big house now. You can buy yourself a smaller house at the moment with no inheritance tax liabilities for your children, and then you can invest the rest to give you an income. Obviously, this remains in place as long as this government remains in place, but hopefully if they make many more positive tax moves, people will vote to keep them in place. If you looked at what the Spanish people said prior to the election, they were fed up with being taxed to the hilt. They were fed up with the family values being attacked, because in Spain, obviously, they value the family very highly, and they were attacking family values. And so the Spanish people actually did something about it. They actually said, look, enough is enough. We're going to change this. And I know central government is still a bit of a mess, but regional governments seem to have their act in order at the moment. We've had change in local governments in lots of towns and cities as well, and let's see if they do some positive stuff as well. But that is absolutely brilliant for everyone out there. And, you know, if anyone says to you it only applies to people that live in the EU, that is incorrect. It is across the board. So if you live in Spain and you leave your money to the UK, to someone in Australia, someone in Canada, I don't know, someone in Indonesia, Thailand, wherever, okay, they are still subject to the same rules as if they lived in Spain.
Wow, okay. And it always seemed to be, I've said it every time, it's the old inheritance tax. It's a rotten humbug tax, that, because it's, you know, it's their money, it's their house. They've earned it and paid it off.
But if you look at the UK, the amount of extra, I couldn't remember if it was the first 3 months of this year, they brought in something, an extra 5 billion in inheritance tax in the UK. Because in the UK, spouse to spouse is free, but then you leave it to anyone else, it's not. And if you go over your allowance, it's taxed at 40%. And for most people, their houses are over that allowance, so it gives them no leeway to leave anything else. So in the UK, you do need to look at trusts, etc., to alleviate inheritance tax. Obviously, trusts are not acceptable anywhere in Europe, or France, Spain, they don't accept trusts. But this just means in the Valencia region, at the moment, people can breathe a little bit easier. I think even I was worried. I was saying to my husband, if something happens to you and me, you know, our daughter will be left the house, this, that and the other, she can't afford to pay the inheritance tax on it.
No, that was always a thing, yeah.
It was always a worry at the back of everyone's mind. So that is, you know, it is a huge bit of good news, and I think people should be very pleased with it, and you should keep an eye on what the government in Valencia is doing. And I know expats, we tend not to vote in elections, but you can vote in Spain. And if you want things like this to happen and a party is doing it for you, well, come the next elections, please go out there and vote and keep them in power, because otherwise, if there's a power shift and it goes back to the socialists, they will scrap all these things and they will bring back taxes that maybe are not for your benefit. So please just don't sit on your laurels, think, oh, things have changed. If there is a next election and you're happy with what's going on, go out there and vote.
Yeah, and you should
vote for the party that's making your life better.
And make sure you're registered in time, because it's quite a way ahead of the election. You need to be have your things in place. Here's the thing, you're talking about the groups that will affect. So if you're in group 4 there, so get married or pay the inheritance tax. That's a tough one. Ask me an easier question.
I've had quite a few people get married. You know, they're getting on in life. They've been together a long, long time. Yeah, they're as good as married.
I suppose so.
They popped Gibraltar and got married. You know, if you've been with your partner 20, 30 years, what's the difference a bit of paper is going to make, apart from save you a hell of a lot in tax? Sure. And if you want your partner to be secure, if anything happens to you, why not do it? You know, why not look after them? Why not think of them? So that's something people do need to consider. As I said, you know, it's been a huge change. It wasn't expected. It was a very, very bold move. And I applaud them for it, because they said they were going to do things like this. And lots of parties, they say they're going to do things and they don't. This is one party that is actually following through. So let's see how far they go.
Listening and exceeding expectations for over 31 years. Blacktower Financial Management, the team you want by your side. Visit blacktowerfm.com.